Heidi-ho, good neighbor. Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, and if you got the reference there in Heidi-ho, good neighbor, you were alive in the 90s. Top 5 year one coaches with the biggest rebuilds ahead. Obviously, we'd like to thank Texas Beef House, and one more shout out to Mullybox for the gear that they sent us today. Use our promo code and get 25% off your first box. So, top 5 year one coaches with the biggest rebuilds ahead. Let's dive in. Number 5, Deshaun Foster at UCLA. UCLA has not won a conference title since the late 90s. They have peppered in over the years a good season with Jim Mora Jr., a good season with Chip Kelly, kind of good seasons here and there where they compete for the conference, but they've not won it. This is a program now going into the Big Ten. This is a large undertaking, especially going in with Oregon and Washington and USC, all teams who have won the Pac-12 multiple times since you have last won it. So, or the conference, now they're not winning the Pac-12, they'll be winning the Big Ten, but this is a big rebuild for them to be back to relevance, and really UCLA football-wise has kind of always been an also-ran. And I know that there'll be some UCLA fans that come at me for that, but again, haven't won a conference title since Cade McNown was your quarterback. Cade McNown. Cade McNown. That's a long, long time ago. Number 4, Bill O'Brien at Boston College. This is maybe one of the more complex situations in that here's Boston College as a small school in the ACC, a conference that is under fire right now from its 2 strongest football members. And here Bill O'Brien, who was an excellent college coach at Penn State when he was there, and he was a pro coach to varying degrees of what you want to say, but he has a really good football mind, and he's a really good coordinator. Did a good job at Alabama, and now he's on his way back to being a head coach in a place that he likes in Boston. But this is a tough job at Boston College. It's a small private school. They're not going to have the NIL resources. And again, they're one of the schools in the ACC that really needs that conference to hold together for as long as it can. Otherwise, they're out in the desert. And they just have not been really regularly relevant since, I can't even remember when. Matt Ryan had a great run there, but since then, Boston College has just been a rocky road, and this is going to be a tough job for Bill O'Brien, especially given the situation in modern college football and how tough it'll be for schools like BC to get on top and stay on top, especially when you have no history of competing and winning that conference at all. Number 3, Curt Cignetti at Indiana. His conference just got a whole lot harder. And, of course, he comes over from James Madison where he had a great run and now steps into a Big Ten program that, again, has at best in its football life in the middle of the pack. And it had to be tough for Indiana fans to watch Michael Penix Jr. Play in a national championship game, get drafted into the NFL and dice it up after he transferred from there to go to Washington. But these are the things that Indiana is going to have to prevent. And look, it's kind of tough sledding at Indiana right now. Their first love is basketball. That has not been up to snuff for quite a long time. They keep running through coaches there. But everything runs through football in modern college athletics, and they've got to make sure that they're good at that. Now, they're in the Big Ten, and they have a nice soft landing place as far as revenue goes. But the bottom line is competing in this league is going to be very tough, especially for schools like Indiana, who have been stuck in the middle of nowhere for a long time. Number 2, Bronco Mendenhall at New Mexico takes over a team that was 11-32. Now, look, his job might not be, I think the coaches in the G5 will maybe have a bit of a smoother run, but New Mexico has gone through a ton of head coaches, just came off an 11-32 run over Danny Gonzalez. This is a guy who won at BYU. He won a little bit at Virginia. He knows what he's doing, but can you win at New Mexico? Can you start competing for conference titles in a place that even in a G5 conference hasn't regularly done that over and over again through the last couple of decades? Can you get New Mexico back to relevance in college football and winning their conference? And look, if you win that conference, you've got a shot at the college football playoff, even in the G5. So can you do that? Now, that's going to be a tough one for Bronco Mendenhall. And number 1, Fran Brown at Syracuse. In the anthems of basketball schools, a couple of which we've been on here, Indiana, and UCLA, obviously, on this list. Syracuse is a basketball school. They love basketball. It's their first love of sports. But their football history, going back, if you start maybe back at Donovan McNabb, Marvin Harrison, and go back, you've got a lot of really fantastic players. Jim Brown went to Syracuse, for God's sake. So it's not like they don't have their share of Hall of Famers rolling through there program-wise. It's just they have, since they left the Big East especially, just not really been much to talk about football-wise. Can they get a corner on that Northeast talent? Can he get into Ohio? Can he get into Pennsylvania? Can he get those kids to Syracuse and get them believing? Fran Brown's a guy who is an excellent recruiter, who people want to play for. He was here at Baylor for a short time. He had head coach written all over him for a long time. He is someone who is going to be successful as a head coach. Will it be at Syracuse? That will be interesting to see. But I think he's got a long way to go. Now, look, you can maybe shortcut it with NIL and different things like that. But again, another team in the ACC that no one's really thinking about when it comes to, well, let's go make our football money. Well, Syracuse is like, what are we going to do? Well, yeah, we'll worry about you later. But it's really about Florida State and Clemson right now in that league, and leaving teams like Syracuse and Boston College, who I mentioned earlier, to swim even harder upstream to try to make hay in that conference. That's going to do it for the top 5. We're wrapping it up right now.